Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the service, our Sunday service on Easter Sunday of Now Creations. Just want you to know what a joy it is to be with you here this morning. Just an absolute joy. Let me just begin by asking you to appreciate the beauty of yourself. Never doubt your goodness or your love. There is such goodness and love within each one of us. And may we truly understand that this goodness and this love is the pathway forward in our lives. I'd like to also remind you that that which is going on within one of us is going on within all of us. Let me just say it again. That which is going on within one of us is going on within all of us. We are a part of a much larger energy. We're participating in something much bigger than simply ourselves, and yet which includes us. May we feel that here today. May we feel that sense of oneness, that sense of love. It's the most beautiful thing we have, not only with each other, but with all others, within nature, for our planet, and for the universe as well. Just a joy to be with you today. May you relax and truly enjoy this service and allow it to speak to you. I just have one announcement to make before we begin today, and that is that we've been enjoying a great deal of success in our online classes. And I'd just like to encourage you to visit our online classes and perhaps participate in them. On our website, nowcreations.org, if you just click on the tab Study Groups, then that'll bring up the groups in the areas that surround you physically, geographically. But in addition to participating in them by way of online classes, you can also participate in all of the other classes because everything now is online. So I invite you to enjoy individual classes and perhaps thinking about branching out into other groups that you might find enjoyable. With that in mind, I'd also like to make two introductory comments to the actual presentation itself. First of all, last night I watched a very interesting documentary on the out-of-body near-death experience of Eben Alexander. He was the neurosurgeon who wrote the book Proof of Heaven. There are so many interesting things that he presented, and certainly many interesting things in the book. I encourage you to read it, Proof of Heaven. But there were two things that he said last night that I thought were extremely important for us. The first one, that you are an eternal being, that you have a conscious soul. Let me just say it again, that each one of us is an eternal being. Each one of us is a conscious soul, filled with light and filled with goodness. And then he said a second thing that was quite interesting. He said, the pathway of the universe is one of love. The pathway of going forward in life is one of love. I know that resonates deeply within us. It's what we truly feel. I just felt these two particular presentations by Dr. Alexander were so helpful, that we are eternal beings, we are soul conscious, and our pathway forward is one of love. Now I want to mention that when I saw that documentary last night, it was after I had written today's talk. It's very interesting then to see the synchronicity of that documentary last night for me, having written today's talk. And I would also suggest how synchronistic it is for you, because his words, I think, are so beautifully complementary to what we're going to share this morning. And then a second comment from one of our members. She was reminding me of a phrase I used not too long ago. There is nothing to fear. There is only goodness to extend. This as a new time. There's nothing to fear. There's only goodness to extend. This is a new time. So with that in mind, let me now bring you to our teaching and meditation today. Let me begin by again saying that it is a continuing joy for me to connect with all of you in this weekly Sunday teaching and meditation. The fact is that we grow so much better together when we experience the oneness that we share with each other. We are, in the Course in Miracles language, a unity of unities. We are a family of souls. We're participants in something so much bigger. Today's Easter Sunday teaching, focusing on the resurrection of Jesus, in it, I would like to offer a teaching which, in the words of one of our recent participants who said, "It makes sense here and now." It makes sense here and now. Therefore, the topic of today's teaching is living the resurrected life now. Living the resurrected life now. Let me just say, however, it's not what you think it's going to be. And I suggest you might want to take some notes. Let's begin. As a person, I have always tried to live life very, very practically. And to me, that always meant trying to live what is really real. Not just in the present moment, but also what is real in the longer view of life. Thus, when I became a priest in the Roman Catholic tradition of Christianity, I preached the sermon at the first service that I conducted. And I felt that I should explain why at that time I became a priest. At that time, these were my thoughts. At 27, I became a priest because I felt that Christianity gave answers to the two major questions of life. The first question was, how should I live my daily life? The answer of Christianity very simply was to love God and to love your neighbor. This made perfect sense to me then, and it certainly makes perfect sense to me right now. To love God and to love each other. It was the second question, however, that was more perplexing, yet one that I gave a lot of thought to, even though at that particular time in my life it was not a full understanding. While I'd always been very, very happy in life, a pretty jovial person, I've always enjoyed being with others. The thought of death, the thought of dying, was a very important part of my life. And Christianity seemed to answer that question as well, namely, that there was a continuity of life after physical death. That there was a continuity of life after physical death. This not only felt right to me, but it made sense on two levels. The first one, I always felt the presence of this life force within me, its love and its goodness. I, like so many of you, enjoyed life. And it just made sense to me that there would be continuity to life. And the second was kind of like, it seemed rather senseless to me. It seemed rather senseless to me that once you accumulate all of these experiences of life, and then if you died, and that was it, that would not make very much sense to me. Why do the human experience? As I said, I'd looked for something that was real, not only in my day-to-day living, but also in the long run. Just want to say that again. I always looked for something that was real in the day-to-day, but also for the long run. Something that felt right and made sense. Something that felt right and made sense. But at 27, I had so much more to learn. In my first year as a priest, I had a very striking experience that made me re-examine my sense of self and the meaning of life. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by a knock at my door. It was a military officer who asked me to accompany him to the home of one of our parishioners whose son was killed in the military. As I did so, I immediately felt the pain and the grief from our parishioners. It was that very same pain and grief that I felt at the death of my high school sweetheart. And since that time, it was the very same grief and pain I felt whenever there was an untimely death. And I have encountered so many of those untimely deaths in my life. From the untimely death of a premature fetus, to the untimely death of children, to the untimely death of adults killed in automobile accidents or dying of cancer, and to the untimely death of my dear sweet wife through a cerebral aneurysm. What I realized, this is so very important, what I realized is that we are not able to process an untimely death. We are not able to process an untimely death. In fact, we are often not able to deal with the death of a person well advanced in years. Something was missing in my understanding of life, and I was determined to search it out. I found that my search was very much like the search of Robert Monroe in his wonderful book, The Ultimate Journey. He was always searching for what he called the missing basic, that one something that could give a better meaning not only to death, but also to all of his life. Let me repeat that. Robert Monroe was always searching for that one basic, that one something that could give meaning not just to the end of life, death, but also to his everyday living. Well, that was my search as well. I soon concluded that my search could not be found in Western culture, at least not in traditional Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, because each of them primarily focused on simply the human being and our place in the world. And oftentimes, they would even proclaim people as sinners, which I never felt was true. Or you had to wait to get to heaven to overcome this world of suffering and death. This too didn't make any sense to me. Why would you have to wait to become something? Why couldn't you do that right now? As I said, I had a lot to learn, but I was resolved to live a real life. The beginning answer for me to understand life and death, but especially what gives meaning to life, came primarily from the Eastern tradition of Hinduism. Not so much from Buddhism, which seemed to keep one separate from the world, but rather from Hinduism. But again, from a pure form of Hinduism, not all of the other stuff that sometimes gets tacked on to it. Again, this was my journey, but perhaps it might also be instructive to you as well. In pure Hinduism, I found what I was looking for. Or to state it better, I found what ended my search for how to live and not to die. I'll say that again. I found what I was looking for, my search for how to live and not to die. The answer was the following. In every human being, there lies at the center of your being an eternal soul called the Atman. And that soul, the Atman, is eternally connected to the God energy called the Brahman. Let me repeat this. In every human being, there is this eternal soul called the Atman. And your Atman is eternally connected to the universal God Spirit, the Brahma. And yet, there was more. The soul energy, the Atman, contained all of the qualities of the God energy, the Brahman. Well, this was really exciting. My soul energy, my Atman, your Atman, contains all of the qualities of the God energy, the Brahman. This made so much sense to me because it explained things to me that I had bits and pieces of, but not the full understanding of. For example, when Jesus said, "Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect," well, it made perfect sense to me. The reason why you can be as perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect is because you have the same quality of life that God has, because your Atman is a participation in his Brahman. I'll just say it again. It just made so much sense. We can live in the perfection of the God Spirit because our Atman is connected to the Brahman. We have all of the qualities of the Brahman living within us. Our goodness, our love, our intelligence, our creativity, our understanding. This not only sounded right, but it felt right. I never felt that I was a sinner, and I certainly never conceived any of you to be sinners. And I never felt that I was only human. But I needed to hear a good explanation that also felt right. Something that made sense, but also felt right. This explanation was very much, in a sense, in tune with what the Course in Miracles says when it teaches you are an idea in the mind of God that has not left its source. Again, this teaching made perfect sense to me. It truly explains what I feel. I have all of the qualities. You have all of the qualities of the God Spirit because, well, that's how God created us, in its image and in its likeness. We have not left our source. Things were making so much more sense to me. And then there was Jesus' teaching of doing God's will on earth as it is in heaven. Now, this teaching of his had an added bonus. Not only do I have all the God qualities to do this, but I have all the God qualities to bring heaven to earth right now, right here. I have all the qualities, as do you. And this surely is what we're doing, to bring heaven to earth right now, right here. I don't have to wait to die to ascend, but rather I am who I am right now, with not only these God qualities, but also with the incentive and the expectation, with the incentive and the expectation that I should be using them right now. Again, this made perfect sense to my mind and to my heart. was kind of like what Eckhart Tolle said in his book, The New Earth, when he said, the new heaven is your expanded consciousness. The new earth is simply its expression. The new earth is the expression of your expanded consciousness. That was an affirmation, but more than that, it was a clarity that was as clear as the proverbial bell. What I am doing in my awareness is ushering in heaven on earth. Nothing to fear, only goodness to extend. This is a new time. It was that very same clarity. It was that very same clarity that is reflected in the Course in Miracles, wherein it states, child of God, you were created. You were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Makes so much sense. Right here, right now. The good, the beautiful, the holy. Nothing to fear. Only goodness to extend. It's a new time. But then, the Course in Miracles, right after it says, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy, added one other line. This is the message. The Course said, do not forget this. Unfortunately, this is what many of us have forgotten. We have forgotten that the continuity of life is with the soul. We have forgotten that the continuity of life is with the soul, not with the body, and not one's place in the world. This was the missing basic of Robert Monroe. And quite frankly, I think it is the missing basic for many of us in life. We forget that the continuity of life is with the soul. And the body and our places in the world are the soul's creations. This is so important, for even in what seems to be an untimely physical death, even in what seems to be an untimely physical death, at that particular moment, the continuity of life is still not only in the soul, but it is the continuity of life in the soul that gives meaning to every human passing. I'll say it again. It is the continuity of life in the soul that gives meaning to every human passing. Your soul is what needs to be resurrected. Your soul is what needs to be resurrected. This is the meaning of Easter. The bottom line for each one of us is to be able to live in the resurrected state of the soul. And I believe many of us are now doing it. Our continuity of life is with the soul in its relationship to the divine, and that soul expression that we feel with each other. This is the new normal, to live with soul awareness, to live with oneness, to live with that connection to the God Spirit, having all of those qualities. There's nothing to fear. There's only goodness to extend. This is the new life. In conclusion, I can only suggest that the meaning of the resurrection is not the resurrection of the body in some future heaven, but rather it's the reclaiming of your soul essence at this very moment. It is the reclaiming of your soul essence in our daily living that gives direction and continuity to life. This is what more and more of us are coming to know, and we feel this oneness with each other. I encourage you, I actually implore you, put this way of living to the test. See in soul awareness not only the power of your daily life, but also understand the sense that it makes and the feeling that you have within yourself. Realize that the ultimate test in life is, as Eben Alexander said, it's whether or not you become more loving. Love is the pathway of the universe. Jesus said it just a tad differently in A Course in Miracles when he said, teach only love, for that is what you are. We understand it, for we know that that love is the essence of our soul self, which gives meaning to all of life, both physically and in the world as well. What I'd like to do in our meditation now is to take you into an understanding of the soul, and especially to induce the vibration of loving yourself, loving your soul, and realize the importance of doing so. Let me now take you into meditation. Let's now begin our meditation as we are wont to do, by simply focusing on the theme. And the theme I'd like to suggest is loving yourself, loving the soul essence that you truly are. For from loving your soul essence, are you able to extend this love into all that you do. Let us begin, as we are wont to do now, with that intention, by simply focusing on the breath, breathing in and breathing out, and just being attentive to the breath, not being lackadaisical, but not forced either. Focus on breathing in and breathing out, and notice the effect that it will have upon you. Please begin. Now what I ask you to do is to simply notice how you have slowed down, how you physically feel relaxed, but also that your mind has slowed as well. And just notice how settled you become. Just notice this, and then I'll ask you to notice two other things. But for the moment, just feel the settledness of being who you are. Now I would like you to notice two things. The first one, it has two parts. The first one, would you notice how calm you are? Just right now, right here. Just notice your peacefulness, your serenity. Just feel that sense of love and goodness within yourself, that tranquility. Just feel that. And then would you notice how you did not have to dig deep down for this calmness, but rather that this calmness is much more apparent right on the surface of your life. It was right there that this sense of calmness is just a little bit more of who you are. It's much more on the surface of you. And just notice that. You've changed. There's a presence that you now go to. Pat yourself on the back for your growth and development. You have changed. And now I'm going to ask you to notice the second thing. Would you notice how you have turned inward? You're not in your body. You're not in your head. Rather, you have turned inward into an inner presence. You're quite alert. But just notice this. And would you say to yourself these two phrases, either one that might speak to you, here I am, here I am, or this is me, here I am, I know me, this is me. This you that is you is your soul self. This you that is you is your soul self. Now what we want to do is to create the vibration of love for your soul self. May I suggest we do it in the following manner. Would you focus for now your attention on someone or something that you have said these words to? I love you with all my heart and soul. I love you with all my heart and soul. Someone or something. And would you feel the vibration you had in extending your love to that person or that thing? Feel the vibration of love. Now, take that vibration of love that you extended outward and bring it back to your soul self. It'll take a moment to do so. What you have extended outwardly, bring back to your soul self. And then notice the beauty of your soul self emanating this love. From within. Again, I'll ask you, feel the vibration of your soul self in love with itself. This is you. Hear now the words of Jesus. Teach. Let's take that word away. Feel. Only love. For that is what you are. Feel the truth of this statement. And now the words of Eben Alexander. Love is the pathway of the universe. It is the way in which we are going forward. Feel that. Don't think it. Feel it. There is nothing to fear. There's only goodness to extend. This is the new life. Return now to the rhythm of your breathing, nice and easy. And may you understand that what is going on within you right now is going on within each one of us. We are participants in the movement of love. And let me invite you now to gently breathe your eyes open, your heart still being filled with love, and allow your goodness to emanate through your beautiful eyes. Let me now play for you our beautiful song, Namaste.
I honor thee, I honor thee, Namaste, I honor thee, I honor thee, I honor thee, Namaste, I honor thee. Deep within, peace resides, faith abounds, and love abides. The light shines bright to illumine love without, love within. I honor thee, I honor thee, Namaste, I honor thee, I honor thee, I honor thee, Namaste, I honor thee. When you are where you need to be, within that space, I honor thee. Seen through eyes of illusion, seen through spirit, we are one. I honor thee, I honor thee, I honor thee, Namaste, I honor thee, I honor thee, I honor thee, Namaste, I honor thee, Namaste, I honor thee.
Let us now conclude our service with our acclamations. I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. We are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste, dear mighty, mighty souls. Namaste.